Show!
Welcome to the Boone County School Board meeting recap for 9/14/23. Thank you to our special guests, Jacob Saltzman and Karen Strayer from Moms for Liberty, Boone County. We have the audience of citizens. Several people spoke on SB 150. We had a community member speak on the Panorama and the fact that it's collecting information base loading for Chinese social credit scoring systems. And again, many different community members on the SB 150.
Yeah, I think the main thing that we need to look at when we even go back and review all of these audience of citizens is, to me, this just goes back to, once again, Matt Turner's leadership. And so part of leadership and part of getting paid $250,000 a year to lead a school district of 20,000 students is bringing people of different sides together, making sure that we not necessarily agree with each side, but more importantly, make sure that our educators, our district office know exactly what they're doing and that we are united in that way. And I think what we see here is that Mr. Turner Stacy, when was this law put into place? Like, when did it go into place?
That was last year,
SB 150 went in this year.
But it was voted on last year, so they knew it was coming. Yeah, they knew it was coming, and then it was enacted as a law after that. So it's not like they haven't had plenty of time.
Yeah, and so to me, when I've talked to people at the district office, what they've said is, "Oh, this law is so confusing. We don't know what we can and what we can't do." To me, our leader of the district, Matt Turner, should have been calling people in Frankfurt. If he needs to call Max Wise, who is the one who brought this law together, then that's what he should have done. The interesting part about this is Max Wise actually came to Northern Kentucky. He met with superintendents over at Triple Crown Country Club to talk about this. They knew what was going to happen. And I only know this because I had a meeting with Max Wise after the superintendent's meeting. Matt Turner wasn't even present for the meeting. And so he wasn't there to understand exactly what was going on. And he never followed back up to see, okay, what are we doing? And so now our whole district is in disarray. So you have people on both sides of SB 150 that are frustrated because they feel like it could have been put into place better, and then now it's just in such people out there are just confused as anything because they don't know exactly what they can and can't do. And you see that with students speaking out, you see parents speaking out. We have a school board member's daughter speaking out. The fact that our school board member doesn't know, which goes to his leadership. If anybody should know exactly what's going on, it should be our school board members, who then could tell their family, hey, no, this is what's going on. We can't even do that.
Well, let's put this into perspective, though. This is a district that operates off strategic planning, right? How many superintendents we have? We have 6 of them now. We have plenty of people work in the central office. So the fact that there's still confusion tells me it's being done on purpose. It tells me that they have politicized SB 150. And what I found very interesting in this audience of citizens is everyone should go back and watch Amber Hoffman speak because she hits the nail on the head. She understands that things have been politicized, and she talks about what it doesn't include, what it doesn't say, to get rid of misconceptions about what everyone's politicizing about SB 150. It says this, and Amber's like, no, I looked it up. It doesn't say that. So I found it really interesting that she went up there to squash some of the politicization of SB 150, but I'm very much of the thinking that they're doing it on purpose and it's about politics, and I wish they would take our kids out of the political arena. They are not byproducts of your BS, people.
Yeah, that's a great point. That they are the ones who say, let's keep politics out of school, especially our school board members. Jesse Parks has said that multiple times. We need to keep politics out of schools. But he uses his platform to bash our politicians.
Yes, he does.
The ones that are in Frankfurt working for our educators, One thing that we have to do, and I just mean in general in education, is we have to keep politics out of all facets of our school system. And yes, is it going to play, politics are going to play a small part in it. You have laws like this. I understand that. This is an easy fix. We just talked about it a few minutes ago. The easy fix is you have permission slips for things at the very beginning. And these parents can fill out permission slips at the very beginning of the school year to do some of the things that are frustrating the teachers, to talk about hygiene, to talk about different things that go on in kids' life as they're growing up. And parents can sign those. If they don't want to sign them, then that's fine. They don't have to sign them. But that would be the easy fix. That's the only thing our government is asking, is that you just notify parents of what you're talking about, which I think is a reasonable ask. I know if this was religion, and we were talking about religions in school, both sides of the aisle would definitely want permission slips to be filled out. But for whatever reason, we have some people in our district office who don't think that's a feasible ask, is to get permission slips.
Yeah, they always talk about the stakeholders. Are parents not part of that stakeholder? I mean, they treat parents like you have to figure out what we're doing, and then you have to figure out a way to opt out of what we're doing if you don't like it. But we're not going to just send permission slips home and get your permission before we do crazy stuff with your child or their data.
Yeah. And the thing that's frustrating on this part is that the education from our statewide has brought this confusion into the local districts. And, that's me as a parent. That's why I got involved, is because I remember my daughter's in 4th grade. So 2 years ago, when my daughter was told she could be any gender she wanted to be. And I went and spoke at a school board meeting, and I was pretty much told by the district office, like, you're crazy. You only think this way. And here's what I find interesting is I don't care if they don't believe the same way that I believe, but they care that I don't believe the same way they don't. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so
Hypocrisy.
So what's interesting about this whole thing is, let's just take all of this out of education once again, which we're not going to do. It's too far into our school systems and in curriculum. But let's just take it all out, because if I were to go up there and tell them, hey, I want to identify as a automobile, well, they're all going to look at me like I'm just stupid. Mm-hmm. And, rightfully so. They're like, I don't believe that. There's no way you can do that, whatever. And that's perfectly fine. That is their right to not believe that I can identify as an automobile. But if I tell them that I don't believe that they can identify however they want, they think I'm a complete idiot. And so I don't expect anybody to believe what I believe when it comes to politics, when it comes to religion, anything. They're my beliefs. I hold them tight. Us three on this podcast this morning are probably not going to agree with each other on every single thing. And that's perfectly fine. We can still have this conversation, still be civil, we can still be friends. But for whatever reason, our school district, if we do not believe what they believe, they just think we're idiots. And that's the biggest problem I have, even with this SB 150, is it's the leadership, but then it's also, if we don't think the way they think we're wrong, they're right, and that we should think like they do. Instead of understanding the community that they live in, which is a very conservative community, and go, you know what, why don't we just keep all of this out, because we're probably not going to get everybody to believe like instead they're teaching it like it's truth, which that's the problem that I have, is the way that they teach it. ESSER Funds. So this is a topic that I've actually been doing a lot of research here recently, and I don't even know, are you all familiar how this works? Are you all familiar how we got installments of ESSER Funds?
No, I just thought they sent them out to all the schools.
Yeah, so we have 3 installments. ESSER Funds, if you actually look up, and it's actually on here, which, I'm surprised they put it on here. If you look down on the COVID funding, It's 47473 GL. ESSER Funds is actually for learning loss. So our federal government gave us installments of money for learning loss in schools. And the whole point of that is during our COVID, when our governor kept our kids out of school, we decided we're going to give money to the school districts to help bring these kids back, to get them on the track, the learning track of where they should have been from when they weren't in school. And that what we see, especially here in Boone County, is that we're spending millions of dollars with our ESSER funds on things that technically are not helping with our learning loss. And so we got 3 installments. I'm going to get these numbers wrong, but the first installment was a smaller amount, like 2 or 3 million. And then we got 2 more installments later of like 9 million, 12 million, somewhere around there. It equaled all to a total of around $24-25 million.
This page says 28 million, but I don't know if they're taking out what is considered the 1.7 million for private schools at the top. I guess they don't get that, right?
Correct. And maybe it is closer to 28 million. You know, I had the exact numbers, but I have them at my house and I'm not in office. So, but the interesting thing is, we look down here, and one of the things that we see is this is where Chromebooks were put into place. So we now bought Chromebooks with ESSER funds. Well, is that a learning loss? Can we say, yes, our Chromebooks are going to help us with the learning loss? Well, to me, a lot of our learning loss is due to Chromebooks.
Amen.
So I have a 7th grader who, if we put him in a classroom and told him to write a paragraph, we would have a hard time reading what he wrote down, not because of his grammar, but because of his penmanship. That's a learning loss. Why is his writing terrible? Because he types all day long.
Yep.
And we think that in the real world that you don't need to write anymore. Well, I write every day for my job. Things that cannot be typed, that I have to write handwritten on certain applications that I have to send into large companies, and they have to be handwritten. So it amazes me as you go down through here. We pay for employee vaccines. That has nothing to do with the learning loss. Now, I'm sure the government has went back and changed to where they're helping these schools out, especially with vaccines, because they were pushed so hard. I'm sure that's in there. But once again, it's not a learning loss. One that we just had on the agenda for the school board meeting was the Panorama survey. Well, how in the world is that a learning loss? It's not. It's a learning need that our district wants to make things easier. And hear me when I say this. It makes things easier on our district employees and our office staff, not our teachers. So we took away allocations. Mr. Turner took away allocations from our schools, which put less teachers in the building, which means ultimately you're going to have more kids in the classroom. So now we're asking our teachers to do more with less. So they're going to have to teach more kids. But guess who jobs are going to get easier? Our district employees, our office staff, not our teachers. And it's because of things that they want to buy, like Panorama survey, which Dr. Detweiler, what would you say he said at the school board meeting, Stacy?
For future funding, they will have to prioritize what they want to keep and what they don't, because ESSER funds aren't available in the future. But I'll be honest, I really was looking at this as, is this preparation for the next lockdown? That's how I looked at this. I'm like, you guys are preparing to put us back in our homes at some point again, and your plan's already going to be in place on how to keep the schools running, how to keep the kids on their devices, like how to, the NTI days. So if they roll out another pandemic for the election, right? And they say, well, you can't, 2 weeks to stop the spread, or it's a climate, whatever chaos they want to cause, and tell us we can't go out. The schools are now positioned to fully have their digital classrooms and the kids on devices at home. That's what this looks like to me. Like this is pre-planning for the next one.
Yeah. Well, and it wouldn't surprise me because the thing is, these ESSER funds go away, and I think you're going to start to see some districts like ours who just like to spend. I think you're going to start to see districts struggle. And so what are they going to have to count on? They're going to count on our federal government. And like you said, right before the election, that way they can give our school districts more money to continue to push the agendas that our federal government wants them to push.
Yeah.
Which is where all this is coming from. But one thing, just so everyone knows, and we'll have this, and maybe we can talk about this in a future podcast. I've already requested open records request, or in the process of it, for where all of these dollars are spent exactly. Digital learning coach, and $25,000 for digital. Well, that's one school. So who got that?
Yeah.
I mean, where does that go? Where does that go? What school benefited from that?
Well, and are these tutoring and summer programs just digital stuff? You know what I mean? Like, I like that you're doing a records request.
That's summer school. So and I know this from Jefferson County too, from a contact I have in Jefferson County. They were paying teachers more for summer school. So a couple years ago, during COVID, I don't know if y'all remember this, but Stacey, you might have got a letter in the mail. I don't know, but there were certain kids that qualified for summer school, so learning loss, that you could go to summer school, not because you failed, but just to help with your learning loss that you had. Did you ever get a letter about that from Boone County?
I do not remember getting one.
Okay, so kids could go to school who they weren't making up a grade, but they were paying teachers extra. Okay, so they got paid extra out of these ESSER funds to help with this. And quite honestly, it was a complete joke. My 7th grader went, I forget what grade he was in at that time, 5th, 4th. He does struggle in school. It was one of those where for us, we felt like maybe it would need it. It was just a complete joke. Didn't help him. It was more of just we could pay our teachers some extra money with these ESSER funds. That's what that's for.
When you see ESSER funds, there are no future plans for funding going forward. And Detweiler said we'd have to make decisions and prioritize going forward.
Now I'd like to take a look at Turner's memberships. Please note we'll probably move through this a little quickly for time, but you can pause the video at any time. First up, we have an agreement renewal with Battelle for Kids Ed Leader 21, which is the price of $10,000. So that's our number one membership. Number two, we have the Kentucky Association of School Administration and the School Superintendent Association. So although we call this number two because they're both on the same invoice, it could actually be number 2 and number 3. The total of that is $1,616. The second one is the Kentucky Association of School Superintendents. We've labeled that number 3. That is the amount of $2,000. Number 4 is for the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce, $618. Number 5 is the Northern Kentucky Education Council membership of $10,000, of which this is a council that was formed after Randy Poe, who is the current president, left the superintendent position.
So number 6 membership would be the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce, not to be confused with the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce. So 2 memberships to the Chamber of Commerce, $2,025. And then we found where Turner's also a member of the Boone County Business Association. This was from 2022, so we're still looking to see if there is a current one as well, which would end up being number 7.
So the insert membership. Why do we bring this up? Because in July, I spoke to the board regarding Mr. Turner's numerous memberships and the costs to the district.
So at the recent school board meeting on September 14th, Carolyn Wolf asked to table the insert membership because we don't have any information on it, and it is expensive because it includes the membership fee of $7,350, but also includes conferences, travel. They're mostly in California. We get no information from the superintendent or from the website on what meetings are being conducted, what he is learning. The board attorney spoke up and said that Turner gets 4 memberships covered according to his contract, and that this is one of those. So we are pointing out to the public that this is membership 8 or 9 that we have found. We've only gone through 3 meetings so far. We're in the process of looking at more, but we're covering several more than just 4 memberships. The board did approve the addition of the Assistant Director of Transportation, and the question was, do we need this position when really the problem is we need to pay our bus drivers more money? And they went ahead and added this, but I will say that Carolyn Wolf did put up the argument that we need to not add more management. We need to just pay the bus drivers more. This is the 3rd consecutive meeting. So 3 months they have talked about how they need to pay the school bus drivers more, and yet it's not been added to an agenda. The school board has been involved in lawsuits on behalf of harm to your children. The schools are being awarded $143,000 from a Juul lawsuit that they filed. Apparently, they plan on spending this on mental health services. We want to thank Carolyn Wolf for bringing up we need an audit on security of data that's being housed at our district. As she pointed out, we are using several digital plans. We are using digital curriculum, we're using surveys, lots of extensive data is being collected on our students and family. And she pointed out that we do need an audit of the security of our IT programs. This would include an emergency plan in place. Are there safeguards in place? Is there an IT security team? And a yearly audit like we do everything else. And I will say that the district said none of this is in place. Feel good about that, parents? For school board meeting information, go to KSBA's public portal or search Boone County, Kentucky School Board Meetings and click on KSBA's meeting portal. Click the date and time in the left column to get the agenda with attachments.